Did you know? One of the most brilliant women in history carried a secret that slowly consumed her. Her name was Marie Curie, a pioneer, a genius, a woman who defied the world of men to uncover the unseen forces of the universe. She discovered radium and polonium, elements that shimmered like magic in the dark. To her, they were hope. To science, they were power. But to her body, they were poison. At night her notebooks glowed faintly. Her glass vials pulsed with eerie light. Even her skin, carrying invisible scars, seemed touched by an otherworldly aura. Crowds hailed her as a miracle worker. Nations honored her as the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and then again, the only person to win two. In two different sciences, but behind the applause was silence. The silence of slow decay, because what she thought was wonder was death hidden in plain sight. And every page she touched, every tool she held, still glows today, untouched, untamed, too dangerous for human hands. This is the story of Marie Curie, the woman who glowed in the dark, and whose brilliance burned her from the inside out. Paris, 1891. A young woman arrives with nothing but a dream. Her name, Maria Sklodowska. The world would one day call her Marie Curie. She walked the crowded streets with determination. Poor, hungry, but unstoppable. At the Sorbonne, she sat in freezing lecture halls, her breath fogging in the air, her hands numb, ink smearing across borrowed paper. Other students mocked her accent, her silence, her poverty, but she listened. She learned. She absorbed everything. Science became her language, equations her poetry, and then she met Pierre Curie, a quiet, brilliant physicist, a man drawn not by her beauty, but by the fire in her mind. Together, they searched for answers hidden in stone and dust. In 1898, they found it, two elements unknown to mankind. Polonium, radium, names whispered like spells, mystical, dangerous. The world gasped. Here was matter that glowed by itself. A light without flame, energy without end. Doctors claimed it healed the sick. Companies bottled it in water, makeup, even toothpaste. The rich bought watches that ticked with a ghostly green glow. But in Marie's lab, the truth was darker. Her nails cracked. Her fingertips blistered. Fatigue gnawed at her bones. Yet she worked day and night, unaware of the silent killer wrapping around her. Every vial she touched, every notebook she filled, every scrap of paper she scribbled on still too radioactive to touch. Over a century later, the glow that dazzled the world was already devouring her. The lab was cold, damp, cluttered with glass vials, blackened pans, and barrels of crushed ore. From the outside, it looked more like a shed than the birthplace of history. But inside, something glowed. Marie Curie and her husband Pierre worked tirelessly, stirring, boiling, sifting through endless rock. They believed hidden inside the ordinary was something extraordinary. And they were right. From pitchblende, a dull black mineral, they extracted a substance that shone with an unearthly light. It was faint, almost fragile, yet alive. Radium. It didn't need the sun. It didn't need fire. It burned on its own. A ghost trapped in matter. At night, when the lamps were turned off, the lab would shimmer faintly in the darkness. Glass bottles sparkled like stars in a man-made sky. Powders glowed in quiet whispers of green and blue. It was as if they had stolen a piece of the cosmos itself. Marie was entranced. She worked with bare hands, her sleeves rolled up, no protection between her body and the unseen storm of radiation. Her fingertips cracked, her skin burned, but she ignored it. The work consumed her. Days blurred into nights, meals forgotten. Her health waning. Still, she pressed on. Pierre begged her to rest. But Marie's voice was steady. One never notices what has been done. One can only see what remains to be done. She was chasing immortality through science, and science was taking its payment. Paris applauded them. Radium was hailed as a miracle. Doctors claimed it cured tumors. Entrepreneurs sold radium water as a tonic for health. Luxury companies infused creams, powders, even chocolates with it. People painted their watches, their instruments, even toys with luminous paint. They believed they had found eternal life. Instead, they had unlocked a quiet death. But no one knew that yet. Not even Marie. Pierre himself began to weaken. His body ached. His bones grew fragile. The burns on his fingers never healed. Still, he pushed forward until the day fate intervened. On a rainy April afternoon in 1906, Pierre Curie was crossing a Paris street. A heavy horse-drawn carriage came rushing through. He slipped. He fell. The wheels crushed his skull. Marie was left alone. Her partner, her anchor, gone in an instant. And yet, she did not stop. In her grief, she buried herself deeper into the glow. The very substance that was destroying her became her only solace. She carried tiny vials of radium in her pockets. She kept samples by her bedside. At night, she would gaze at their faint light, soft, hypnotic, otherworldly. Friends remembered her face illuminated by the glow of poison, her eyes reflecting the ghostly shimmer. To her, it was beautiful. To us, it is terrifying. Her health declined. Chronic exhaustion, pain in her joints, unseen wounds beneath her skin. But she dismissed it all. Science was worth the sacrifice. And then came the honors. The world crowned her with glory. The first woman to win a Nobel Prize. Then again, the only person to ever win 2-1 in physics, 1 in chemistry. But even as kings and presidents honored her, she carried a secret weight. Her notebooks glowed, her lab shimmered, her body grew weaker. Every triumph was bought with her blood. Marie Curie was not only admired, she was feared. Whispers spread of her strange experiments, her glowing bottles, her eerie late nights in the lab. Neighbors said her skin looked pale, almost translucent. Her nails brittle, her eyes hollowed. Still, she pressed forward, obsessed with unlocking the secrets of radiation. For her, it was not a choice. It was destiny. But destiny has teeth, and it was already biting into her. Every page she touched, every notebook she wrote, every object she held, still carries her ghost. To this day, in Paris, her belongings are stored in lead-lined boxes, too radioactive to touch, too dangerous to destroy. The woman who glowed in the dark had unknowingly cursed herself, and the glow that entranced her would become her shadow. An eternal reminder that some discoveries are more dangerous than they seem. The world could not resist the light. Radium was more than science, it was spectacle. Doctors prescribed it for everything: fatigue, arthritis, even aging itself. Pharmacies sold radium water as a fountain of youth. Beauty companies mixed it into powders and creams, promising eternal radiance. The rich drank it. The desperate trusted it. The glow meant health. The glow meant life. But the glow was a lie. Factories across Europe and America rushed to profit. One of the most famous United States Radium Corporation. There, young women were hired to paint watches and clock dials with luminous paint. Tiny brushes dipped into radium-laced liquid. Every stroke glowing in the dark. Supervisors told them to sharpen their brushes with their lips, to lick them, to swallow the glow. The women laughed as their teeth lit faintly in the night. They painted their nails, drew glowing patterns on their skin. They believed they were touching magic. But slowly, the magic turned monstrous. Their jaws ached. Their teeth fell out, their bones crumbled. Faces disfigured, mouths rotting from the inside. Doctors were baffled. Executives denied the connection. The women kept working, until their bodies betrayed them completely. They were called the Radium Girls. Their suffering became legend. Proof that the miracle Marie Curie discovered carried a deadly curse. But even as others sickened, Marie pressed on. She did not believe her discovery was a weapon of death. She still saw it as hope. Radium, she argued, could heal cancer. Its invisible rays could target tumors, destroy sickness at its root. And she was right. Modern medicine was born in her crucible of pain. Yet she never acknowledged the shadows, not fully, not publicly. Outside the lab, whispers followed her. Enemies sneered that she was dangerous, a foreigner, a woman meddling with powers beyond human control. Some newspapers painted her not as a savior, but as a witch cloaked in science. Still, she carried on, her thin frame wrapped in determination, her notebooks piled higher, her vials glowing beside her bed, her health eroding quietly with every passing year. Even today, her presence lingers. Step into the archives in Paris, and you will find her papers sealed in lead. Notebooks, cookbooks, even her letters too radioactive to touch without protection. Her handwriting, her fingerprints, her life forever glowing, forever dangerous. Marie Curie's brilliance gave the world light, but it also gave the world poison, a gift and a curse wrapped in the same shimmering glow. And the question remains, did she know? Or did she choose to ignore the truth? Her legacy spread across the world like the very radiation she discovered. Unseen, unstoppable, transformative, and fatal. The glow of radium was no longer confined to her lab, it had seeped into humanity itself. By the 1920s, the world knew her name. Marie Curie was no longer just a scientist, she was a legend. The woman who had defied every barrier. The woman who had stolen light from stone. But legends have shadows. Her health was failing, her eyesight blurred, her hands trembled. Her body weakened with every passing season. Doctors whispered words she ignored. Anemia, leukemia, a sickness that seemed to have no cure. She dismissed it all. Pain was her constant companion, but discovery remained her only obsession. Visitors described her as frail, her once bright face hollowed, her skin almost translucent, yet her mind sharp as ever. Her voice, unwavering, her determination, unbroken. She traveled the world, speaking of science, of hope, of the promise of radium. In America, she was welcomed as a hero. Wealthy donors lined up to gift her precious radium for her research. She held it in her hands, smiling, unaware or perhaps unwilling to admit that it was the very substance unraveling her from within. Every day, she carried vials in her pockets. Her notes piled higher. Her experiments continued, though each one cost her a little more of her strength. Her daughters watched in silence. Irene, who would follow in her footsteps. Eve, who would write her mother's story. Both saw the slow, invisible enemy consuming her. But Marie refused pity. She had never wanted sympathy. Only progress. By 1934, her body could no longer resist. On July 4th, she collapsed in a French sanatorium. Her diagnosis, aplastic anemia. Her bone marrow destroyed, her blood unable to carry life. The doctors wrote the truth in careful words. Her illness was due to her long exposure to radiation. At 66 years old, Marie Curie was gone. The world mourned. They buried her beside Pier in Sceaux, south of Paris. Two pioneers, reunited in death. But even death could not silence the glow. Her papers, still radioactive. Her belongings still sealed away. Her lab still humming with invisible danger. She had given humanity knowledge, hope, and power. But she had also left behind a warning, a reminder that light always casts a shadow. In 1995, her remains were moved to the Pantheon in Paris, a resting place of heroes, a temple of immortality. Yet even there, her body carries traces of the radiation that marked her life. She rests among the greatest minds of history, still glowing, silently, in the dark. Marie Curie changed the world forever. Her brilliance gave birth to modern medicine. Her discoveries laid the foundation for nuclear energy, for weapons, for cures, for catastrophes. She was both healer and harbinger, a mother of light and of shadows. And the glow she carried has never truly faded. Her story did not end with her death. The glow she discovered still lingers inside hospitals, inside power plants, inside weapons hidden beneath the earth. Every cancer patient saved by radiation owes her life. Every nuclear shadow owes her its darkness. Her notebooks remain sealed. Her lab still a ghost. Her name etched forever into the history of light and death. Marie Curie believed she had given humanity a gift, and she had. But gifts carry consequences, and some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Even now, more than a century later, her touch is untouchable, her glow untamed, her story eternal. Because Marie Curie was not just the woman who glowed in the dark. She was the woman who taught the world that even light can kill.